cuando nosotros le decimos no te rindas, decimos matuanta kayakush. O sea, que significa que no se parta en dos tu corazón o tu pecho.
Let me tell you a story. This is Lake Atitlan. It's the deepest lake in Guatemala and in Central America. And this is Tzutujil. It's just one of the Mayan languages spoken in the towns surrounding Lake Atitlan, which is home to a handful of Mayan ethnic groups. I first encountered the language in 2021 when I came to Guatemala for the first time, and still 1 year later I just couldn't get it out of my head. So I decided to come back and learn it for a month.
Muy bien, ahí está, ese es Tzutujil. En un minuto hablas Tzutujil.
Tzutujil is a language belonging to the Quichean branch of the Mayan languages. It's the dominant language in 5 of the 11 municipalities surrounding Lake Atitlan, but in no way is it like the biggest or the most prevalent. According to the 2018 census, just over 72,000 people speak Tzutujil in Guatemala. It trails just behind Kaqchikel, which is officially the biggest language on the lake. The Tzutujil are kind of like the genetic cousins of the Kaqchikel people, you know, they have a lot of shared cultural traditions, a lot of shared history, and I've heard a lot of people say that if they speak one of the languages, they can understand the other pretty easily.
¿Cómo es piña en Kaqchikel?
Hola amiga, es de chop.
The number of speakers has actually gone up by almost 10,000 since they took the previous census in 2002. So that would mean that Tzutujil people are actively using the language, teaching the language, and just passing it on to the next generation, right? I would say this is more true on paper. You know, from the conversations I've had with people in Lake Atitlan, young people are just less motivated to learn Tzutujil. Even some of them, if they have Tzutujil-speaking family members, they just never picked it up.
But before we talk about the present, we have to talk about the past. This is Doña Imelda. She's a Tzutujil woman born and raised in San Pedro, and I stayed at her house the entire time I was in Guatemala. Oh, and she makes really good tortillas in case anybody was wondering.
She also speaks Tzutujil fluently, but her children and her grandchildren do not.
Mis hijos no hablan.
No.
No hablan.
Oh.
Muy poco. Muy poco.
Pues
Yo
sí.
trato la manera de hablar en Tzutujil con ellos. Guajo anin kotritzo. Que yo quiero que ellos aprendan Tzutujil.
¿Usted estuvo aquí durante el conflicto interno? Ajá.
Estuve trabajando.
Hold up, did I just say Civil War? Yes, so from 1960 to 1996 in Guatemala, there was an internal conflict between a line of militaristic dictators and leftist rebel groups. It was a war primarily born from land struggles, so Guatemalan elites and foreign companies wanted more of the land, and indigenous Guatemalans were obviously like, no. And the leftist rebel groups often commanded significant support from the country's indigenous because they advocated for their rights to this land. The government adopted what's called a scorched earth policy, which means that anything even suspected to be tied to these leftist rebel groups was to be destroyed. And in doing that, they often assumed that all indigenous Guatemalans supported these rebel groups, when the reality is a lot of them just wanted to keep going about their daily life, you know, go to the market, spend time with their families. Aside from the outright physical violence committed by the government, which I can't even go into because I do want to keep this video a little bit lighthearted, but if you do want to find out more about that, I would read this book, Guatemala Never Again. Aside from the physical violence, the government soldiers also often prohibited people from expressing their indigeneity in a lot of ways, so wearing traditional dress, or in this case, speaking their native tongues. Which brings us back to Tzutujil. So, there's a national organization in Guatemala called the Mayan Languages Academy, and it represents 22 Mayan languages in the country. They work to help improve locals' literacy in the language, they make sure these languages get passed on to younger generations, but they also teach foreigners, interested foreigners, like me. The Tzutujil chapter of the academy was literally just a 10-minute walk from my homestay in San Pedro, so I asked the director, Gaspar, if we could do one-on-one classes in Tzutujil, and he and I met up every Tuesday and Friday for the entire month that I was there. So, on my first day, we started by unpacking the alphabet and basic sounds in Tzutujil.
Ese es el alfabeto.
Okay, so in the Tzutujil language, there is no C, D, F, G, H, V, or Z. And you might be thinking, but Elise, wait, isn't there literally a Z in the name of the language, Tzutujil? And yes, you're right, I had the exact same question this morning. But the thing about Tzutujil is that it has, like, combination, like, sounds as letters. So, like, 2 letters combined are considered a letter sometimes.
La Z no existe en el alfabeto. Existe, pero siempre va acompañado con la T. Siempre.
You will never see a Z by itself in Tzotzil, apparently. Unless it's like a loan word, you know?
Oh, and another thing, I'm pretty sure he was implying that the glottal stop is a letter unto itself, which we don't really have an equivalent for the Tzotzil glottal stop in English, so...
In Copabej. Esta. Me gusta cómo pronuncias esta.
Sí, es la más difícil.
Sí. Pero sin este... Excelente.
The glottal stops are not to be fucking ignored in Tzotzil because he was telling me, like, your life depends on this glottal stop. For example, if you say Kaival, that means market. So, you know, there's a glottal stop right after the K, making a K sound. Or K. Yeah. But if you say Kaibal, like a K without the glottal stop, you know what that means? It means viewpoint. Mirador.
Nakna benchuak pair.
Nimbe pa Kaibal.
Nimbe pa Kaibal.
Nimbe pa Kaibal.
No. Porque nimbe pa Kaibal significa voy en un mirador.
I was like, you cannot be serious, but it really is that damn serious.
Oh, and while we're comparing Spanish to Tzotzil, there's just so many words in Spanish where it's like, do we really need this word? Take the Tzotzil word bej, for example. This word can mean so many things.
Por ejemplo, bej significa calle, camino, callejón. Podría ser también vereda. Todo lo que se relaciona con carretera, con calle, solo se dice bej en el idioma tzotujil. Por ejemplo, yo, o, estoy en un lugar, pa como una preposición, bej como camino, calle, carretera.
So if you say ink opabej, that could mean I'm on the way, like estoy en camino, or it could also mean I'm in the street, like estoy en la calle.
So one thing can mean a lot of things.
Eso, ahí está, más o menos.
¿Y qué significa eso?
Camioneta, bus, taxi.
My only qualm right now with Tzotzil that kind of doesn't excite me and is kind of intimidating is the conjugations. So for example, if we take the word shatwa'i, this means that you ate. So you have the tense at the beginning, which is the X. You have the pronoun you, which is at. And then you have the verb wa'im conjugated, which is, in this case, wa'i. So, shat wa'i is literally you ate, so like in the past.
El nin es presente, la X es pasado, la in primera persona y la B verbo ir.
Entonces el verbo siempre viene acompañado de una N o una X.
Exacto, depende el tiempo.
And there's also a lot of verbs that, to me personally, looked completely different from their infinitive when you would like conjugate them and put them in context. So,
Shin,
En forma de yo. Shin,
wa, tajin. Ya comí.
yeah, conjugating verbs is definitely where I struggled the most.
Yeah, I'm keeping my expectations for myself very low. Like I said, I'm not trying to master this language by any means. I just want to be able to connect with people, buy things, exchange pleasantries. That's not that hard, right?
¿Cuánto caro fue?
3 por 10.
¿Usted habla Tzotzil?
Ajá. Ushit 10.
Oh shit, Nak Abri?
Nico.
Nico.
Ah.
Elis.
Eli.
Elis, sí.
Ya entendés algunas cosas de
Muy pocas.
Arrua Puná.
No entendí.
¿Cuántos años tiene?
¿Cómo es que digo? 22.
¿Sabes? Igual.
Igual 22.
Ajá.
Entonces se usan
Pero-
palabras en español en Tzotzil.
Ajá, ahorita sí. ya
¿Bastantes?
como que entre español y tutuí.
Ay, por eso, Oshi 10.
Ajá,
3 por
Ushit 10.
Entonces ustedes como personas jóvenes lo hablan muy bien
Ya.
en Tzotzil?
No,
¿O
ya no.
Ya no.
Ya no.
¿Y sus padres sí?
Ellos entre los que nacimos y entre los de antes de 2000, no, después del 2000 ya no pudimos practicar mucho. el
¿Y
idioma
cuántos años
materno.
tienes?
Ajá, 20.
20, sí.
Pero casi la mayoría ahora los que se crecen se quieren ir para la ciudad y solo quieren hablar ya inglés y español.
Sakari,
Karinoya.
Utsawash, Uts, Malchar, Haka, Acá te.
Dios.
Voy a comprar sac.
Saúl. Haru.
Oshi 10.
Oshi 10.
Las mancas.
Mango.
Mancas.
Oshi 10. Ok, vas.
Me costó
Pero
mucho.
te admiro, ya tienes palabras, bravo.
Gracias, pues. Lo que me sorprende es que pues las personas jóvenes no hablan tan bien el idioma, o sea,
Mis hijos
¿Ah,
no
sí?
hablan,
no.
no hablan.
Bueno.
Muy poco. Guajo, anin cotrizo. Que yo quiero que ellos aprendan su tujil.
Buenos días.
Hola Liz,
Sacadí.
¿cómo estás?
Muy bien. ¿Y usted?
In my second Sotujil class, I learned about place names or, toponymy in Sotujil, basically just the names of municipalities, cities, and countries in the language. And that taught me a lot, not just language-wise, but like Sotujil mindset-wise,
So basically, like all places, a lot of people as well, they have like a Tzutujil name and they have a Spanish name, right? For example, this place in Spanish is called San Pedro La Laguna, so like St. Peter's Lagoon, pretty much, right? Pero ya dense cuenta, like that's not how it always has been called, right? Because it used to go by its indigenous name, obviously. So here in San Pedro, it's called Tzonunya in Tzutujil, which means the place of the hummingbird.
And this happens with pretty much all places around Lake Atitlan, not just San Pedro. So if you take San Juan La Laguna, for example, it hasn't always been called that. That's a Catholic toponym that was introduced. Its original Tzutujil name is Shekukuabach.
Which I don't really know how to translate that in English. It's like the stone at the bottom of a pot. Oh, what's up? Hola, Chucho, ¿cómo estás? What do you have to say about Tzutujil? So continuing with place names like I was talking about, I said San Pedro, San Juan, Santiago, Atitlan. So like Santiago, that's a Catholic ass thing, obviously. So in Tzutujil, it's called Tzikinjay, which means Casa del Pájaro, or like House of the Bird. Tzikinjay, eso significa Casa de Pájaros, pero los otros ¿qué significan?
Debajo de piedra de tinaja. Ahora son un día tierra de colibrí. Estos pajaritos que tienen pico pero muy puntuagudo.
Sí, los
Es
conozco.
colibrí. En Tzutujil se llama tzonón.
Tzonón.
Tzonón. Tzonón ya es por el
Lugar.
lago. Es por el lago, ya.
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 ¿Lago del Colibrí o lugar del Colibrí?
Lugar del colibrí.
Eso.
Tzonón ya. Entonces ya existían estos nombres de lugares antiguos, pero más después cristianizaron los nombres de los lugares. Por ejemplo, San Pedro es Pedro Apóstol.
I know, sí. Oh, but my favorite one out of all of them was the word for Guatemala, which is Ishimulev. And Ishim means corn, and Ulev is the land, so it's like land of the corn, which I think that's so beautiful. It's like, yeah, that's what it is, right? But what I'm also interested in about this is like, when did they come up with this word for Guatemala? Because like Guatemala as a nation is very young, but like obviously Tzutujil people predate that because they've been here, like indigenous people here predate borders, of course. So I'm like, did they come up with this word for Guatemala after the country was founded? Have they always had this word for, kind of the larger area of Guatemala? It's just so interesting to see like the way the different cultures like approach naming places, because from the indigenous perspective it's like, yeah, of course we're gonna name this place based off of like its regional nature. But then the Spanish came and they're just like, boom, religion. Kind of trifling.
And another thing that Gaspar told me is that just because these place names exist in Tzutujil doesn't mean that people always use these place names when they're speaking Tzutujil. Most of the time they just insert the Spanish place name into an otherwise Tzutujil sentence. So for example, to say, I'm going to Santiago Atitlan, most people are not gonna say Ninbenapa Tzikinjay, they're gonna say Ninbenapa Santiago. Lake Atitlan is a big tourist destination, so my guess is that, in this bilingual, multilingual region, the place names that are going to win are the ones that are most easy for foreigners to pronounce and are most recognizable to foreigners.
But that's kind of trifling of the Spaniards, to just come up in here in the 16th century and be like, oh, you know what, this place that you've lived your entire life, it's called St. Peter now. Like, who is that? I mean, obviously nowadays a lot of people here are Christian and Catholic, so, it's not like a weird thing, but back in the day, I would have been like, how are you just gonna rename my birthplace? Anyways, moving on to another thing, I think I've given up on verbs. Like completely, because I don't even know. I think the way that they change based on the subject and like the tense and stuff is just there's no like steps to follow. It's just I think they all are learned in context. He also showed me like a list of verbs, and a lot of verbs in their infinitive form do end similarly, like with im or im, but some of them are just like, damn, what is that? Where do I go with that? How do you conjugate that? I don't even know. It's like you have to learn it in context.
Aquí hay un documento solo que es para la biblioteca. Es un listado de verbos. Entonces puede revisarlo.
Pero sí, la mayoría de los verbos terminan en, pero no todos.
Eso es el infinitivo.
So the example that he was trying to explain it with was the verb to go. So like, I go, nin be. You go, nat be. He or she goes, be. But that doesn't always work for like every verb, because I've just seen him conjugate other verbs and I'd be like, where the hell did this come from? Or like, what is this little piece here? And like I said, I'm not trying to master the language or anything. I'm just trying to find out like, how does this thing work? And I have discovered that verbs are some complex shit. So, oh, it looks like it's raining now. We actually have a tropical storm brewing here right now, so I should definitely go inside before I get swept away. Okay, bye. So I have been invited to a baby shower. Not one of the things I expected to experience here, to be honest. Most people go on vacation, they don't go to baby showers, right? I don't know. Is this vacation? No, I'm living. It's for my host mom's daughter, so she's having a baby girl and we're gonna get lit, I guess. I don't know. I feel I'm gonna definitely stick out like a sore thumb. I don't expect there's gonna be any other foreigners there. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of Tz'utujil spoken at this baby shower, because if they're inviting like all the ladies in the pueblo, like of course, right? So I'm like, language opportunity. Honestly though, okay, I'm not the type of person who gets uncomfortable being in like a linguistic situation where I don't speak the language and have no idea what's going on. That's actually like pretty enthralling for me. So I guess we'll see.
No. Arranca el tiempo. Carnine Marbalik. Tienen 3 minutos para la elaboración. Y el resto de participantes van a crear una canción sorpresa para mamá. Nepan Jurubish Hateej. Naka jamás buenas tu André. Necesitamos, pero Hatibishle toste bankaj panejar haneban chankish keshin. En el momento toste a presentar categoría ni a viva voz. Ahora, tiempo. 3, 2, 1, tiempo.
There was a big ass storm here, so the power's been out for like a day. It came back on now, but for that reason, I had my class almost entirely in the dark today. So, you know, dedication on both our parts. What did we learn today? There was a lot happening. We worked with pluralizers, so like pluralizadores. Gonna be honest with you, no fucking idea what happened there. Like the different ways that you make stuff plural is by adding like 2 I's at the end of the word, 2 A's, or using the word hule.
Por ejemplo, vinak en singular, persona, pero en plural, vinaki. Vinaki. Tú ya sabes qué significa esto.
Isha. Mujer.
Mujer. Pero no todo es I. Puede ser a, chosh, como rata, pero para pluralizar, ¿cómo sería?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm just gonna pass it off as one of those things that I don't need right now. Like, I don't think that's a beginner thing. It's also something that I cannot learn in 4 weeks. So we're gonna act like that didn't happen. Word order, that's also what we went over, which is interesting because it's like backwards from what I'm used to, right? In English, it's subject, verb, object, right? But in Tz'utujil, it's verb, object, subject.
Shutil comió. ¿Por qué la X marca el tiempo pasado? Shutil huech es tortilla. Entonces, comió tortillas con lo mismo.
Huh? So you're telling me the lion didn't eat the tortilla, but ate the tortilla, the lion?
I think word order is a really interesting way to learn about the culture surrounding a language. You kind of see how different cultures prioritize different information, right? So for us English speakers, the most important thing in that sentence is the who, right? The lion.
But Tutukhil is like, no, we're gonna put the verb at the front because the action is the most important, you know? Which I can get down with that. I can get down with that. Okay, random words that I learned today. Yash, that's chichicase, which is like a poisonous plant around here that I have been poisoned by already. Kasnimkhap, there's a lot of rain today, or it's raining very hard. To say it's hot? Okay, and this one fucks me up because there's a Q and a K right next to each other. Kas katan. No, because I know I'm saying that with a Q. Katan. Katan. Just like, okay, just say it. Don't even think about it. Kas katan. No. God damn it. Katan. There we go. Wait, I might be on something. Kas katan. I think that suffices. You know what? Just forget it. Okay, turn it off. Turn off the camera. Entonces, ¿quién eres?
Na banon utsewech nu hanubi ashwan hakamikan kada wataki utsi sobar equin.
Pero dice que no quiere ser mi maestro. No te pedí que fueras mi maestro. Para que sepan, solo quiero practicar unas cosas. Entonces hoy yo aprendí cómo decir, hablas Tutukhil, Natsijoni Patsutukhil, ¿verdad?
Natsijoni Patsutukhil.
Natsijoni Patsutukhil.
Muy bien.
¿Cómo se digo yo hablo Tutukhil?
¿Yo hablo Tutukhil?
Nin. Tsijoni.
Perfecto.
Puede ser, pero también está como Natsijón Patzopal. Sería como la traducción. Puedes hablar en la palabra. Es como una forma más como de amigos de decir Natsijón Patzopal. Significaría Tzopal.
Tzopal. Interesante. Ok, la palabra casa es Hay. Pero lo que me enseñaron hoy es que cambia de forma si está como en su forma posesiva. Entonces si quieres decir mi casa, sería...
Un huachoch.
¿Casa no era Hay? ¿O cómo son diferentes?
Excelente, es una buena... Entonces aquí, Hay es el sustantivo. Este sustantivo es supletivo. ¿Por qué es supletivo? Porque al momento de decir mi casa, cambia. Muy bien, vamos.
¿Cuál sería?
Har, porque es vocal.
Así, har, achi, chirrochoch.
Muy bien, ahí está. Ese es Tutukhil. En un minuto hablas Tutukhil.
No, lo que me dijeron es que siempre están inventando nuevas palabras como para cosas modernas, para que sea como en Tutukhil. La manera en que lo hacen, hay como 5 puntos de referencia.
Nosotros tenemos un criterio lingüístico. Tenemos su generalidad, su función, su color, su sabor y su contexto. Su contexto tiene que ser cosmogónico, tiene que ser cultural.
Entonces, ¿cómo harías una palabra nueva para Wi-Fi?
Entro a este nahual. Entiendo esto. Este es un poquito muy avanzado.
Cat. ¿Y qué es cat?
Red. Es como tejido. Y el Wi-Fi mismo. Y red es yash. Entonces, ¿de qué está hecho yash? El material. Ahora vamos con el material. Esto está hecho de cam. Aquí podemos enlazarnos acá. Yash. Ahí está.
Kamayash. Sí me estaban diciendo que la nueva generación no quiere usar palabras en Tutukhil para como cosas diarias.
Como te decía el otro día, tal vez está perdiendo un poco esa como cultura. Estoy muy agradecido que hablemos Tutukhil en mi casa.
¿Solamente?
Sí, solamente Tutukhil, casi no hablamos en español. Es algo muy bonito, tiene una riqueza muy única.
¿Cómo fue? Utsmalteoshin be'ena pa Tinjobat Tutukhil.
¿Estás recibiendo clases en lenguas mayas?
Sí.
Yo estudié con ellos el año pasado un diplomado.
¿Sí? Wow.
Ahora ya puedo escribir. Antes no podía escribir.
Wow.
Es un poco difícil.
Interesante. Sí, me cuesta muchísimo.
Antes yo solo lo podía hablar porque desde pequeña mis papás me enseñaron.
Bueno, al menos hablabas, sí, porque muchos ni saben hablarlo. It's so dark out right now. Oh, puddle. I'm currently going to meet up with JC, who is a Tzutujil rapper from San Juan. I met him last year. He's a super cool guy. He runs a crepe shop during the day, but he is also a performer. He goes out like on the weekends to the surrounding towns around Lake Atitlan to perform, which I think is super dope. Pero vamos por un traguito, and I'm gonna see if I can get him to rap a little bit for the camera, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Entonces, ¿qué decías?
Son dos cervezas en la entrevista. Te decía que el Tzutujil es expresivo. Sí. Si tú dices Utzawach, estás diciendo literalmente, o sea, cuando tú traduces letra por letra, estás diciendo cómo están tus ojos. Porque se dice que en los ojos se ve si la persona está triste, está contenta, está afligida, está preocupada, o sea, por eso es que decimos Utzawach. Cuando nosotros le decimos no te rindas, decimos Matuantacayakush, o sea, que significa que no se parta en dos tu corazón o tu pecho. O sea, dices una cosa, pero realmente cuando lo traduces al pie de la letra estás diciendo una cosa muy expresiva. Si yo quiero decir líder, en Tzutujil no hay una traducción literal de la palabra líder. Decimos Kamolpej. Estamos diciendo literalmente el que lleva el camino. Cuando yo digo tengo hambre, digo na'an pan. Eso significa me está ardiendo el estómago. O sea, cuando
es muy urgente la cosa.
Exacto, o sea, es como que necesito comida, na'an pan, o sea, tengo hambre, me está ardiendo el estómago. Entonces, cuando cambiamos las palabras literalmente a lo que realmente son, dice una cosa totalmente diferente. Y eso es lo hermoso del Tzutujil, que no es, o sea, tú dices en español ¿cómo estás? O sea, ¿qué das a entender? ¿Cómo te sientes? ¿Cómo estás? O sea, no hay una cosa más profunda detrás de eso, o sea, exacto, o sea, y eso me encanta a mí del Tzutujil.
I can't even like begin to describe what I was just a witness to. I feel like I just went to church. That's what I feel like. You know, I thought me and Gaspar's last class was gonna be just chill. Like even when he got there, he was just like, okay, vamos a repasar. Like let's just go over stuff. Tell me how we ended up talking about this.
El Oshit representa la mujer Ish. ¿Qué tiene que ver con la historia y con la mujer? Los pechos y el ombligo.
It was awesome, honestly. Like he was educating me so deeply about just like the numerology. Because I think I just asked him a simple question, like what's the numbers 1 through 10? Because I still hadn't learned those. I only remembered 3, Oshit, and 10, Lahu. And he just literally went so above and beyond. It was awesome. I had no words. I just accept wow. English is so boring. Spanish is so boring, you know? It's like, what's behind all that? You know, sure there's like interesting things about Spanish, like, oh, they have Arabic influence because of like the Moors and stuff like that, or I don't even know what's cool about English. Phrasal verb, I don't fucking phrasal verbs. Like everything in Tzutujil is so intentional and powerful and just like deep. In the most authentic sense of the word, not even being like, wow, this is so deep. Like it's deep. Oh my god, also I had so much fun because the guy serving us, he realized what we were doing, that we were having a class, and so he struck up a conversation with me in Tzutujil, and I was just like, fuck.
Vas a aprender el Tzutujil. Por eso te estoy diciendo. Elis. Paranin y Julio. Para serte sincero, a veces nosotros hablamos, yo personalmente hablo el Tzutujil. Lo que me cuesta es escribir.
A mí también.
Sí, y hay palabras. Y cuando me dicen, ¿puedes escribir Tzutujil? No, conscientemente no. Porque hay glotales, a veces son 2 A.
And you know, even if I'm starting to get the hang of things, I will never, ever, I won't say never, but it's going to take a long ass time for me to be able to say Q on the end of a word, like binak.
Va, entonces, kuluk.
Kuluk.
Pero no es kuluk, es kuluk.
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 No es kuluk.
Estoy tratando de diferenciarlo.
Sí, kuluk. Kuluk.
Kuluk.
Kuluk.
Kuluk.
Kuluk. Kuluk.
Kuluk. Kuluk.
Kuluk.
Kuluk.
Esa, ahí está.
I felt like I was having a stroke, dude. I just can't like express how grateful and just happy and privileged I feel to be able to learn the language and learn more about how it ties into the culture and history here. To be a witness to all of this, you know, greatness that is Tzutujil, and to be able to work with people who really know it down to its core who, you know, don't see just a number, they see the Nawal behind it. I'm kind of sad that I have to leave, you know, but maybe this will be my new tradition. I'll come every May and June to bust out my tutukhil, and yeah, I guess we'll see.